So therefore, what we come to know is that this Greek model um, was something that was accepted and taught also in the various schools. So for example, I think the Pythagoreans accepted this model and they kind of worked with it. Now, there was a problem which has got to do with the movement of the planets. So the planets are the arch villains in this case. Okay. So what was the observation that was being made with regard to planets which challenged the notion? So for this, I'm going back to what we discussed last class, in which I was telling you the inner planets, that is Mercury and Venus, and the outer planets, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn, how they distinguish between these two. So I told you something about where they will be seen in the night sky and that they will be visible only in opposite directions and therefore they found. The truth is not that. I just use that as a easy argument to begin with, to just think about these things. The reality is something quite different. And for that, I'm going to do another screen share. So please make sure that you are on the speaker view and you've got my image, my video pinned down. So are you able to see the screen now?
Yeah, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming everybody is therefore able to see the screen now. So this is just a Google search that I did on what is known as the zodiac belt. Okay, so you can also do this. Search zodiac belt and see the images. Does anybody know what the zodiac belt means? Does anybody know what the zodiac belt means?
A belt where you see all 12 of the zodiac animals.
Yes. So the zodiac signs everybody is aware of, right? So the sun signs that you have. So I'm a Sagittarian. Some of you might be Pisces, Aries, Leo, Gemini, all of these things, Scorpio. So these are very familiar, the 12 constellations that form our zodiac sign. So depending upon when we were born, the sun is in which constellation, that constellation is given as your zodiac. Am I correct about that? So we also call it our sun sign. Okay, it so happens that these zodiac constellations form a very they are visible only in a certain zone in the night sky. So all of the zodiac constellations falls within a broad belt. Okay, so that is what is shown in this image in the right side. You can see the zodiac belt. The sun is in the center. The earth is orbiting around the sun. And the zodiac signs are organized in a circle around it. Of course, it's not as if they are organized. The whole thing is organized in such a way that we will view it like that. Another picture that helps to see this better is this one. Okay, are you able to see the picture? So that's how you can imagine the zodiac belt. Okay, what has this got to do with the planets? It so happens that the planets are also observed in the same zodiac belt. Okay, but with an important difference. The difference is that the inner planets, that is Mercury and Venus, appear in the lower position of this zodiac belt, okay, and the outer planets appear in the upper position of this zodiac belt. Are you able to process that? Why it is like that is hard to explain. I will not attempt it now. Okay.
So can you repeat?
So I was talking about the zodiac belt. You got the idea of the zodiac belt. The zodiac belt is the belt in which the zodiac signs that we are familiar with, which are actually basically constellations, which we imagine in different shapes, right, are visible. So that is, there is a specific belt which falls around the okay, I don't want to go into that. Wait, okay, I can tell you about that. So there is a sort of equatorial belt, celestial equator and ecliptic, um, which are like imaginary orbits, and the zodiacs fall north and south or up and down of that equatorial belt. Okay, this is just the way it is. Okay, there is nothing to be, I mean, there is a lot to be understood by talking about it, but right now I don't want to talk about that. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is that I had given an explanation last time about how Greek astronomers figured out the difference between the inner planets and the outer planets because of the position where they will see it in the night sky. But that is only part of the truth. Just by looking at that, it is not possible to say. The other clue comes from the fact that the planets also broadly follow this, are also seen within the zodiac belt. The inner planets are seen in the lower position of the zodiac belt and the outer planets in the upper part of the zodiac belt. Why this happens, you think about it yourself and you figure it out. It will be too complicated for me to try to explain it now. I'm not prepared to do that right now. But that also forms part of the explanation. That leads us to the next part. Just a moment, somebody is in the waiting room. Okay, that takes us into the next part, which is that the planets are also observable in the night sky. Okay, and there is something peculiar about the movement of the planets, which gave us the next clue and leads us to the work of Herakleides. So, is everything followable so far? Did you get all the connections?
Sir, I had to leave in the
Yes,
middle,
sir.
so I didn't hear everything.
So I've just stopped the screen share. So whoever is speaking, can you just speak a little louder? I couldn't hear what was said. The yes sir I heard, but I didn't hear what the...
Yeah, sir,
Yeah,
Prakriti speaking. I'm saying that I left the meeting in the middle because I couldn't see anything and I couldn't hear anything. So can you just repeat what you just said?
all I said was that, were you there when I was talking about the zodiac belt?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I left in the middle.
Yeah, so the zodiac belt has something to do with what we are going to talk about. Okay, I said that the planets are also visible on the same zodiac belt. The inner planets appear in the lower part of
Yes.
the zodiac belt, and the outer planets appear in the upper part of the zodiac belt. I can't explain today. I'm neither prepared nor is it relevant for what we are going to talk today. Why the inner planets and the outer planets appear like that in the zodiac belt. But I'm going to talk about the movement of the planets. Okay. Another factor was that two observations. Okay. One is that the inner planets, that is Venus and Mercury, their movement was very much connected with the movement of the sun. They were almost always seen just after the sun disappears or around the time the sun disappears, the sunset, or in the morning just before and just after the sun rises. So there was a suspicion that these two planets are actually planets that go around the sun, that attend to the sun, okay, as they thought about it at that time. So that was the first clue. The second one was even more fascinating, okay, and this is where the observation and the clarity of the observation comes in. When some of these planets were observed over a long period of time, like let's say for about a year, the planets would appear to move, okay, across the night sky when seen. So let us say, for example, we are looking at this with the background again of the, okay, I've used the pole star already, right? So I will use the background of this constellation. I hope you are able to recognize this.
Orange belt.
Yeah, Orion. Yeah, okay. I don't know if this actually happens. I'm just kind of like using my imagination. So let us say in the night sky, somebody is observing this constellation, and they are observing the same constellation at the same time and seeing that these planets, that this particular planet, whatever it may be, also moves across the sky. Okay, so over many days, in fact, for about an entire few months, you have to observe this, couple of months or so. What they found that the planets which move across the sky like this suddenly start retracing their steps. Are you able to follow what I'm saying now? Okay, and then after a short while again starts moving forward.
Are the dots the path of the planet?
Sorry?
Are the dots representing the path
Yeah.
of the planet, like
Yes, the
its
dots
path?
are representing path of planet across time. Okay, like in a few months' time.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, there was something wrong with my internet connection, so I don't know how you reached to the conclusion that the Mercury and Venus were um, like closest to the sun.
Well, it was very simple in the sense that Mercury and Venus, first of all, took the lower, were the only two planets which were in the lower part of the zodiac sign. Now, I didn't make the connection of that and why they are inner planets. It's just an observation. The second thing is that by the time of Herakleides, the observations were made that Mercury and Venus were planets that appeared very close to the sunrise and sunset. So they had a suspicion that these two planets had something to do with the sun, and maybe they don't have much to do with the earth. Okay, the third nail in the coffin, and there are four nails. Okay, so the third nail in the coffin was the fact that when people observed the planets over a long period of time, then they observed that these planets did something very peculiar. They would trace the path across the night sky like the way they were going around in conjunction with this idea. So if you're observing from Earth, you would see the planet going around, and you should see the planet proceeding from one point to another like this, right, in the night sky. But what happened was these planets were seen to be going further and then going backwards and then going out again. So there was a kind of a loop that was happening over here. Okay. Now this became a huge problem for astronomers in that day. Initially, they must have said that maybe our observations are not accurate enough, and perhaps you did not collect data sufficiently properly. That is why you are seeing this. Go do the experiment again. As teachers sometimes tell their students, right? You say that, sir, I did an experiment in the laboratory and I think I found a new element. Right? The teacher will say new element. Is it really? Can you just like go back and do the experiment again? Maybe you will find that you did some mistake. That's why you got this result. So they must have done that. But over and over again, as people were doing more and more careful observations, right? They found out that they could not escape the fact that planets did indeed behave in this manner. And that is why the Greeks gave the name planet to this, because planets means wanderers. Okay, and why was this a problem? This was a problem because it didn't fit this model. This model, what did it say? There is a crystal sphere on which sat the planet Mars, and then the crystal sphere rotated at uniform speed, okay, along a set path. So which means that not only will it move at a uniform speed, it is also going to be rotating in a clockwise or anti-clockwise direction as the case may be. But in this case, the only way it is you have to complicate the system now. You have to say that the crystal sphere moves like this for some time, and then it moves backwards, and then it moves forward again. And that's a bummer, right? Then people will start asking more questions. Why does it have to move backwards? Why can't it just keep moving in one direction? Right? And this was the problem that Herakleides cleverly solved. Okay, the fourth nail, I told you about 4 nails, right? The fourth nail in the coffin was the behavior of the planet Venus. Okay, what Venus, when you observe Venus, what would happen is, so here in a small box I'm showing what Venus does, is that Venus would appear small to begin with, and then as the year proceeded, Venus's size would keep increasing. Okay, and then again it would start decreasing. In addition to the wandering motion. So
We
when does
can't
an
see the
object,
left side of the board.
it went off the board?
Yeah, most probably.
Let me just check. No, not much, very little.
Okay.
I'll just move it a bit. Okay, right. So when does an object appear to do that? When it becomes larger and then smaller?
In an elliptical object.
Coming close.
Yeah, very simply,
Coming close
when
and
it's coming closer to you and going further away from you, correct? Yes?
Yeah.
How does this fit into this? Right? Because the distance between Venus and the Earth is a fixed orbit. So if the Earth is in the center and you are observing Venus, then there is no way in its motion around the Earth will its size increase, because that would mean the entire sphere would shift closer to you and further away from you. You meaning observer on Earth. Okay, so it so happened that the evidence was mounting more and more that that particular Greek model of the universe was incorrect. Okay, and by making very careful observations, Herakleides came up with a revolutionary idea. So what was the revolution? Can anybody guess?
Earth is not the center of the universe.
Sorry?
Earth is not the center of the universe.
That the Earth is not the
Copernicus,
center of
right?
the universe, but that's not enough to say that. You have to say something more than that.
But wasn't that Copernicus?
Exactly, we always think that it was Copernicus, but Copernicus was not the first to talk about the Earth not being the center of the universe. The Greeks, arguably, in terms of Western philosophical thinking, the Greeks were the first to have proposed this. Okay, but still, Herakleides didn't go that far. It was Aristarchus who did that, but I'll come to that next. So Herakleides, wait, let me check his spelling. I don't want to write his wrong spelling. K-L-E-I. Oh yes, I got it right. Greek spellings, man. So what Herakleides did was that he did something very clever with the same model that existed. He said, okay, the Earth is in the center. I don't want to move it. The moon, yes, it is the closest object. It's still going around the Earth. All the observations seem to suggest that that was fine. But it was not that Mercury and Venus came after this. He suggested that Mercury and Venus, because they seem to be in attendance to the Sun, he assumed, therefore, that the Sun had Mercury and Venus going around it. Okay? Do you get this now? let me get this right. Yeah. And then the other planets came outside of this, the outer planets. Mars.
A question.
Yeah. Yes.
Shiv here. Sir,
Yeah.
like if according to this diagram,
Yeah.
won't Venus and Moon like bash into each other?
No, no, no. According to this diagram, it's just that in the scale that I was drawing, it came out like that. Let me make the orbit of the moon slightly smaller so that it doesn't crash into those planets.
But even the sun and the Venus can crash.
Yeah, exactly. So let's not go too much into. No, 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 no. The sun and the Venus won't crash. The Venus and Mercury are actually orbiting around the sun.
Yeah, but the sun is orbiting around the Earth, so the sun and Venus can crash.
Correct, but that will happen only if the Venus and Mercury are fixed to that position. But actually, they are fixed to the sun. So as the sun goes, the whole system will move. You get it? The whole system moves.
You can think of it like the sun's moons.
The whole sphere moves like the.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this was brilliant because if you now think about it, you have explained all of those, at least 3 of those 4 problems. Okay, that the Mercury and Venus planets appear very close to the sun. They appear close to the sun because they are going around the sun. Okay, first point clear. What is the second point? That we will take the last point as the second point, that Venus's size increases and decreases, right? That will happen because when you see Venus now, when Venus is over here, let's say, not here, then somebody from Earth sees Venus, then after some time Venus comes closer to you, so it appears larger. It will appear largest when it is closest to the Earth, and then again it will start shrinking when it goes further and further away. Correct? So that takes care of the 4th point. And then the third, the wanderer's point. Just let me finish all the points and then you can ask your questions. Okay? Is that fine? Then the last point is the wanderers. So if you are on Earth and this whole system is going around like this while rotating, okay? When the planet is approaching you, right, and the whole thing is moving, you will see that it moves in one direction. Wow, who was that? Siddharth, what happened? Siddharth had too much of theory. Too many things.
It was Adil.
Adil. Okay, guys, whoever it was, it doesn't matter. I'm sure it was just a mistake and it will not happen again. So, moving on, what I'm trying to say is that if there is an observer watching these planets from the Earth and the whole thing is rotating while the sun is also going around, then this is possible. Why? Because when the whole thing is rotating and then the planet is coming towards you, there will be a movement which will appear like this. So as the thing rotates around it, there will be a movement that will create this sort of track for the planet. So I'm just showing one planet now. Do you see that? So if observed from the Earth, then this motion, which is called the retrograde motion of the planets, will become apparent. Okay, and with that came one of the most advanced systems that exists. But Herakleides still put the Earth at the center of the solar system. It was Aristarchus who took the next bold step, because it was not just the inner planets that were showing retrograde motion, it was also the outer planets that were showing retrograde motion. So Aristarchus just took the next simple step in saying, what if the outer planets were also planets that were actually going around the sun, and not only that, the earth also happens to be going around the sun, and therefore proposed the first heliocentric model. Okay. Now, one thing is that there is nothing much to discuss regarding Aristarchus's work, because most of his work was destroyed. There are references to Aristarchus's work in other people's work which seem to suggest that he came up with this model. What arguments he used to come up with the ultimate model, that is not very well known. But Aristarchus, who is today known as the Greek Copernicus, was, for reasons that were unknown to us, the exact reasons are unknown to us, he was the one who proposed the first heliocentric model. Okay, and of course, because of that reason, became instantly infamous. Because what he had done was, he had replaced the earth with the sun. And this was considered as heresy by the established Greek schools.
Okay.
Yeah. So any questions that you want to raise now, we can talk about it.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah, I can hear you, but just speak a little louder.
Sir.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
was he considered?
Sorry?
You said that after he proved that the sun was the center, what was he considered?
He was considered as being the Greek Copernicus. I mean, that is from historical point of view. Today we say, I would say that he was considered heretical, as we say. Basically, he was somebody who went against all the established ideas of the day. And for him, that was the only way in which he could fit together what he knew as being proper observations. But unfortunately, his own writings, his own work directly, we are not, we did not get those writings. So therefore, we are not sure what arguments he used. Like for Herakleides, I told you, so those 4 issues that were there with regard to movement of the planets, that's what made Herakleides propose this model of the inner planets at least going around the sun. But in the case of Aristarchus, there is very little evidence, other than the fact that very detailed astronomical records were available at that time. And he must have studied the geometry and the mathematics of it in order to propose what he proposed. But what exactly he did, we do not have. But he just developed Herakleides' model and took it to the next level. He just simply said, sun is in the center, earth and all the other planets are going around it. And that is the only way in which all the data will fit in. Okay, and just one moment, and therefore in the end sort of established finally this model, in which I don't know if you can see it clearly enough. So in this model, the sun is in the center, you see. In all of these other 3, the earth is in the center. This is Herakleides.
So which page?
This is on page number 46. Okay, and in this one, only the earth with moon is there in the 3rd position. Sun is in the center.
So can you show the one before that?
Okay, just a moment.